Questions, comments, advice, rebuttals? Yes, sir.
Are you doing anything with interactive computers as far as training?
In training of,
People perhaps that can't come to campus for whatever reasons.
we are doing some of that, but the two-way distance video gives us so much more power in that. There are some things that you can do with the computer, and there are some certain courses which work quite well on that, so basically technically oriented courses. But we find with the availability of a two-way video that actually works better in many instances. The downside of a two-way video is it's not portable at this point. And to go into the workplace, which is where we need to be more than we are today, we need more portability, and certainly the computer allows us that portability. So some combination. I hope the next generation of the two-way distance video will have more portability. Yes, sir. In what way? I mean, yeah, I mean, the whole issue of school choice is an extraordinarily complex one. And my concern is that there are ways of having accountability, and there are ways of addressing the issues. And let me be quite specific on that. As we raise our admission standards, we know there are going to be some school districts in this state whose kids are going to suffer as a result of that. The data is there. We know where those school districts are. We also can get that data now down to the subject level. And what we want to attempt to do is, using the new tools at our disposal, let's say we find a school district where the kids in their math courses habitually fail college math when they come to us. We can probably get our data systems. We must, in fact. We must have one data system for all of education in this state so we can track a student from day one all the way through. What we want to do at that point is go out to that high school and say, hey, here's the data we have. Something's got to be going on here. How can we help you? Okay? If they say, well, our math faculty needs some extra training, we'll provide that for them. If they say our math faculty just isn't up to the standards that we need to have the achievement, they're coaching the football team as well, and it's called college prep math, but we know it really isn't. What we want to do is offer to provide that course ourselves through distance education, so that we strengthen that component. If we go out to a school district and they refuse our help, we intend to go public with that list of school districts who we think are not doing the job and who are refusing our offer of help. So we'd like to try and strengthen the schools where they are. Now, there are other issues obviously around that, but we think with the data availability and the technology tools, we want to make a real strong effort to try and bring more equitable opportunity to the students around the state. And we think there's some potential to do that. At the same time, I think as a state and as public policy, there's now increasing data and research on issues of school choice, etc., both public choice and private choice. Certainly coming from Wisconsin, I'm very familiar where there's a leadership in there. I think it's too early to draw very definitive conclusions from those experiments, but they're in now 3 or 4 years, so we're getting close to the point where we'll see. I again believe that you make public policy based, not based, but very much informed by data. I think if data shows you that certain things help students succeed, that goes beyond any sort of politics. And I'm willing to change my views on things like choice if the data demonstrate to me that it changes performance. Well, you allow it at K through 12. but it's the same choice at the college level if you've got the financial resource to do it.
We're giving public dollars to the Hope Scholarships and tuition grants that give choices to parents at that level.
Yeah. Well, it's not a choice. I mean, those are really, they're called equalization grants, but they're still a big, I mean, you go to Emory here, and your Hope Scholarship only sort of makes a little dent in your Emory tuition. I mean, it's not saying that it's giving you an equal choice. I mean, the Hope Scholarship in the university system covers your tuition, fees, books. It's an equalization grant of, forget the exact amount now. What, Jack, you're the $2,500. At major institutions, that's really not going to do that. I happen to believe, and I know it's a view that other people have, that you cannot give up on public education, and until I see compelling data that the private choice changes performance, I'll hold that position. Once I see some data that it does do that and it brings all levels of education up, I will change my position on that. Yeah.
Speak to the recommendation in a recent study about the Board of Regents and the Department of Technical and Adult Education.
Yeah. Basically, our relationship with the Department of Technical and Adult Education, I think, is vastly improved. And it suddenly got better when we asked a rather simple question: what will serve students best? And the determination that Ken and I came up with is that we needed two systems which have distinct missions and know clearly what they're doing and not blurring the lines. And we had quite a bit of blurring the lines, but yet still allow for movement of students as appropriate. And what we're working on right now is first a brand new degree in our system called a Bachelor's of Applied Science, which somebody with a 2-year technical completed associate degree in a technical subject can simply use as a capstone to get a degree. That's never existed before. Next thing we want to do is move to program articulation, remove the jargon from that. If a student goes to a technical school and gets a occupational therapy assistance associate degree, today we say to that student, if they come to us to get a bachelor's degree, you start all over, and we treat you like an 18-year-old fresh out of high school. What we're going to try and develop is that student can bring some of that and apply it towards a bachelor's degree, perhaps doing more of their general education as juniors and seniors. So we're looking very much at helping students move between the systems, but between programs, not individual students and individual courses, because that sort of duplicates the missions. But if you've completed a program in a technical school where we've got a bachelor's degree which has some links to it, we want to allow bridges between those two programs. So that's the direction we're going right now, and our first deliverable is the new Bachelor of Applied Science degree. Yes?
Statistics show that an alarming increase in the number of high school graduates from the Atlanta public school system accepted by the university system require remedial training. You said in the previous question that you had detected a specific district. You would sit down with them and talk. The problem, of course, as you know, is very complex.
Yes.
If you were to sit down with the school district superintendent and school board of the Atlanta Public Schools, could you give us an insight into a few of the things you would tell them?
Well, I think first of all, I need to clarify something. There isn't an alarming increase. I mean, it's been too high too long. There's not a particular trend in that regard. That's been there for a significant period. I frankly think that in my 15 months here, what I've observed in the Atlanta School District is very encouraging. I do believe the new superintendent is headed in a lot of right directions. He has in his own background introducing, for example, the International Baccalaureate program in Alabama, which is one of the most distinguished academic programs. So he's had a reputation for putting high achievement programs into inner city schools, and that's one of the pieces of advice I would give that ought to occur. I think the school board, in my time since I've been here, given the complexity of the task, I've been pretty impressed with. The closing of those schools, that was a correct decision to make by the public schools, was a very tough political accomplishment, and I give a lot of credit for that. So I guess I'm encouraged with the leadership that I see right now. I also have visited some schools here, and I'm encouraged by what I see in terms of their use of technology. I was at North Druid Hills recently, and some very impressive things going on there. So what Ben Canada sits on our P16 Council and is an integral part of this reform movement that's involved in. He's a leader in that effort. We know that our universities and colleges in the metro Atlanta area are working very closely with the Atlanta Public Schools. A lot of projects there. We want that to increase. We want to have more partner schools with the university. So at this point, I would say I'm encouraged, but we want to be a bigger partner with you. And where we, through our data, observe some problems, we want to be involved with you with those problems. The P16 initiative also involves people from social service agencies and from health agencies, because those are both relevant issues in the complexity of an inner city situation. Again, if there are health issues there or if there are social service issues, we've got to, what I found in terms of a reform, that there was lots of reform going on here by lots of different groups, but they weren't all in the same room at the same time, moving in the same directions. But I do think that it's a multiple dimensional challenge, and that we need to bring all the players together. But we want to be a more active player in that. Clearly, to go back to my earlier comment, you know, what happens even before they come to school in terms of families, how many of these children are in single-parent families, and what does the data tell us of the implications of that? So I'm not one who says, you know, the whole problem is in the schools. It's a much broader social problem that we're dealing with, and we've got to address that as a complex, broader problem from a very early age, and we want to be a partner there. Again, if we find schools within the Atlanta district which are not willing to work with us and not willing to seek the improvement, we'll be quite forceful on that. But I don't sense that attitude right now. I think we've got a good opportunity.